Have you ever felt invisible before? Have you ever felt worthless, unnoticed in your life before? I think it happens. It happens to kids. It happens to older adults. Just various seasons of life we become invisible. And then instances of life. You wonder. So I'm standing in line, actually not even in line. I'm at the customer service counter at a local home improvement store, won't name them, and I'm standing there, and there are people working behind the counter, running back and forth. Never once in a 15-minute span did they make eye contact with me and acknowledge that I was standing there. And you have those moments where you're like, is this the moment? I became invisible, standing here. And then last November, Janet and I were celebrating our 30-year anniversary. So we go out to a restaurant. I'd kind of scoped it out. I'd been there myself once and thought, okay, this is the place. And so we go, and it's a beautiful night. And we get there, they seat us, our server comes and takes our drink order, then disappears for 30 minutes. Don't see her at all, Interestingly enough, when she did come back finally, I had to go ask somebody, is our server here? She comes back and Janet said, did you notice she did not have makeup on the first time she came to us, and she had makeup on the second time? But we felt like we are invisible. We become nobodies here in this moment. Well, today we're starting this message series called Nobody, Everybody, and Somebody. And we're going to start making our way through the Gospel of Luke. And gospel, the word gospel, anybody know what it means? Gospel means, come on, good news. Yeah, it means good news. It means just good news. So when we look at the Gospel of Luke, it's the good news according to this guy named Luke. We'll talk about him in a minute. And he just collected the stories of Jesus, that this is such good news. Let's call it good news. What do you want to call your book, Luke? I want to call it good news. I want to call it the gospel. So one of the things that Luke does that the other gospel writers, because there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that he does a little bit differently than the others is highlights the people in his world, their culture, that society that were really labeled as nobodies. Luke loves to put the spotlight of how Jesus interacted, the spotlight right there on the nobodies of his world. And like it or not, the world gets separated into nobodies and somebodies. So shifting gears a little bit here. Did you see the greatest interviewer of all time before the Super Bowl? You know who I'm talking about? He's 11 years old. 11 years old, been a sports journalist since he was 7. And his story is really interesting. He became a sports journalist because he had some health issues and couldn't play full contact sports. So he's like, well, then I'm going to be the best sports journalist that the world has ever seen. And his name is Jeremiah Fennell. And he has interviewed some of the elite people, elite athletes and coaches. And I got a couple clips I want to show you. Take a look.
Hello,
What's up, dude?
my name is Jeremiah. I am an 11-year-old.
Sharp gentleman right here.
I'm an 11-year-old local journalist here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm here with NFL Network. It's such an honor and such a pleasure to be speaking with you
It's a
today.
pleasure to meet you. Very well spoken, man.
Thank you. So my first question to you is, every season social media has been buzzing about your touchdown celebrations, whether it's the stanky leg in the Super Bowl, the heart in the air in the AFC Championship, or a choreographed dance in the end zone. So can we expect any surprise celebrations in your first touchdown in the Super Bowl? And if so, will they be solo or as a team?
I gotta start thinking about it. I haven't thought about it quite yet. Who knows? Maybe during the red zone period in practice, I'll test out a few. You got any good ones for me? You got any requests?
Honestly, no.
Come on, what would you do if you got in the end zone?
I mean, as a football, I really just do a spike. I don't really try to do any crazy celebrations.
The spike is electric. I'm with that. Very nice, man. What else you got for me?
So my second question to you is, you and Patrick Mahomes always seem to be in sync, and it feels like it's getting better every year. What are some of the key factors that have strengthened your chemistry over the years?
We hang out a lot as friends, so that way I know that when I'm in the huddle with him and he's looking at me to do something better and dig a little bit deeper if I'm tired, we have that respect and that mutual, friendship to want to have it that much more for the guy next to us, man.
Good time.
Cool cat right there.
Hi, Patrick. My name is Jeremiah. I'm an 11-year-old local journalist, and I am here with the NFL Network. It is an honor and privilege to be speaking with you today.
It's great meeting you, Jeremiah.
So, you know what's crazy? I had a whole list of questions that I wanted to ask you, but now that I'm up here on the podium, I don't even want to ask them anymore. Because, let's be real, this is your 4th time going to the Super Bowl, which means that this is your 4th opening night event. And if you look around, all of these reporters waiting to interview you, I want to have a little bit of fun first before all the chaos begins. So is that okay?
Let's do it, man.
So I want to build a fantasy team, but on 2 conditions. The rules are simple. We both have you as our quarterback since you're one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Mm-hmm. And the second rule is that you can't pick anyone that's on the current Chiefs roster, but you can pick players that are current or all-time players in the NFL.
Okay,
rules,
sounds good.
Rules good?
Sounds good.
All right, so who's going to pick first, me or you?
You got first.
All right, let's do running back. I'll pick Barry Sanders.
Oh, right, Barry Sanders? I'm doing Earl Campbell.
Okay. Wide receiver number 1.
Randy Moss for me. It's great to meet you, my dog.
Great to meet you, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Like, do you get starstruck seeing some of these people still?
Never, because I know deep down in my heart that they're all people, and just because they're popular doesn't mean that they're different from everybody. So, no, I never get starstruck with people, but I do get excited to see people.
Stuff right there, right? That's good stuff. And I just think that the contrast between an 11-year-old kid and all these elite athletes, talk about nobody, somebody, contrast. But the way Jeremiah sees it is, hey, I'm not starstruck by these people. You know, they're just people. I'm just excited to be with them, to meet them. And I heard that, and I'm like, boy, that sounds like Jesus to me. You know, because Jesus interacted with the somebodies of his world and the nobodies of his world. And he's like, I don't care who they are. I'm just excited to meet them. On Wednesday, we started the season called Lent. It's an ancient Christian tradition, and the ancient Christians believed, and we still believe today, that Easter's so important, the resurrection of Jesus is so important that you get yourself ready. And so we use this phrase around here, don't let these be ordinary days. Between now and Easter, do something that opens your mind, opens your life to an experience of Jesus. Do something that you don't normally do, or give something up that is precious to you so that you parallel in some small way maybe the sacrifice of Jesus, but do something that make these not ordinary days. And then one of the things that we're calling the whole church to do together, and I hope you're doing this, and you can jump in at any time if you haven't done it yet. It's not too late. It's never too late. And that is called the 7 Ups, where each week we'll send you out a reminder to take something up and give something up. Or maybe the opposite, give something up and take something up. And one of the things that we're going to ask you to take up is to read the chapters in the Gospel of Luke that are about Jesus' last week of life. You know, primarily the Last Supper, his betrayal, the crucifixion, and resurrection. I want you to read that. And I just suggest if you're able to, and you have the margin, read the whole Gospel of Luke. It's just awesome, from beginning to end. But one of the things we'll see in the Gospel of Luke over and over again is that Jesus wants us to see how God feels about the nobodies in this world. And Luke spotlights Jesus' interaction with the quote-unquote nobodies. So let's look at the very beginning of Luke's account, and we'll dive in from here. But this is Luke 1:1-4, the very start, and Luke is telling us how he came to write his good news, how he came to write the Gospel of Luke. He says, many people have set out to write accounts about the events that have been fulfilled among us. They use the eyewitness reports circulating among us from the early disciples. Having carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I also have decided to write an account for you, most honorable Theophilus, so that you can be certain of the truth of everything you were taught. And I always read that and I think, what was Luke? It sure does sound like he was an investigative journalist. Because he talked to all the eyewitnesses, he wanted to read everything, and there were things written about Jesus and the story of Jesus before Luke or any of the other gospel writers wrote their gospel. So, he's looking at that saying, I want to tell you the story, Theophilus, which leads to the question, who is Theophilus? We don't know anything about this person, Theophilus, just this one mention, right? Well, Theophilus is 2 Greek words that are combined into one that mean one who loves God. That's all it means, is one who loves God. And we don't really know if this was a person, an individual person called Theophilus that Luke knew, or it could have been just Luke saying, hey, anybody who loves God, I'm writing this for you. Theophilus is also kind of a title for people that were known to be true followers of God. And it could be that Theophilus, if he was an individual person, was maybe one of the benefactors of those early disciples. Somebody who helped pay for them to travel the different places that they went to and supported them financially. We don't really know. I tend to believe that he was writing to a person and expecting that person to share this gospel with others. That's what I tend to think. But here's what we know. Luke was a physician, a definite somebody in that world, writing about Jesus to Theophilus, who, if he was a person and a benefactor, was, again, a somebody in that world. And Luke wants Theophilus to know how the life of Jesus started at the very beginning. Now, this is going to be kind of weird for a few minutes because we're going to look at the Christmas story, and you may be at that point where I just took down my last Christmas decorations. I want to put that story to bed for another few months. But, we're going to look at the story of Jesus' birth because it really, really sets the stage for this gospel of nobody, everybody, somebody. We got to go there. We got to go there. Because he specifically points out so many elements around Jesus' birth and how God came into the world for the nobodies. All right? So like for example, God sends an angel to Mary in Nazareth. Nazareth was a no-place town. It was a no-place town. It really has nothing there. I went there. I got to do a Holy Land tour in 2017, so I got to go to Nazareth, and there's a little city there now, and they've excavated the remains of the old town, and what they found is that the people of Nazareth were poor folks. They're poor people. Most of them lived in caves that were dug into the sides of the hills. And the people of Nazareth would travel 3 miles to the city of Sepphoris, because the people of Nazareth were the servants and they were the construction workers in the city of Sepphoris. I've got some pictures of Sepphoris that I took. That's one of the roads, and it's hard to see, but these were the remains of the villas that were there. They're very large places, very wealthy people lived there. And the folks from Nazareth would make that 3-mile journey in the morning to work, make the 3-mile journey back at night, back to their homes. There's a picture of a mosaic there. Lots of these super cool, intricate mosaics that are still there, a couple thousand years old or older. And the thing you need to know about Nazareth, there are no mosaics in Nazareth. That was something for the very wealthy, not the very poor people that lived in Nazareth. So it was a nowhere town. Would anybody say I'm from kind of a nowhere place? Anybody? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that about myself. I'd say it about my wife. But I'm from Warrensburg, right? So I grew up in Warrensburg. And the thing about Warrensburg is, you kind of might know about it if you're from around here, but I found myself over the years having to tell people, it's 50 miles east of Kansas City. 50 miles east of Kansas City. 50 miles east of Kansas City. That's all, okay, I know where Kansas City is. And then my first place that I was in ministry was in Chillicothe, Missouri. And again, that's okay, all right. I always had to explain, Chillicothe is like an hour and a half northeast of Kansas City. It was all from Kansas City, northeast of Kansas City. My wife is from High Point. This is what I'm getting at. High Point, Missouri, which is near Enon. And Versailles, not Versailles, it's Versailles, so she's near there, and you got to explain where High Point is by saying, okay, it's 30 minutes west of Jeff City, if you know where Jeff City is, So Mary is from Nazareth. It is just a little wide spot in the road. And she's a teenager, probably illiterate. Mary was probably illiterate. Most people were illiterate. Almost all women were illiterate in that time and culture. And by the way, women in that culture were valued somewhere between land and livestock. Somewhere in there. Yeah. So she is from a working class family. She is put into an arranged marriage with a man named Joseph, who's a carpenter. We can begin to put all these pieces into place here. She's a nobody, Mary, from a no-place town, engaged to a nobody. Oh, and on top of all that, Mary finds out that she's pregnant. Joseph's not the father. They're not married yet. So her being in that position pushes her even further into nobody land. Near the end of Mary's pregnancy, they got to make their way to Bethlehem because the Roman emperor, a definite somebody, said everybody's got to go to their hometown to be registered it was taxes, right? It was all about taxes. Mary and Joseph go to Bethlehem. It's crowded. They get there late because Mary's pregnant on the way there, right? Like almost ready to have a child. She had to stop a lot along the way. They get there late after everybody else. Jesus is born. They have to stay in a stable, probably again a cave, with the animals. That's what we're told. It's the kind of thing that happens to the nobodies of life. Oh, and the people that God wants to know about the birth of Jesus, the first people that God sends messengers to, shepherds. Shepherds were the lowest class in that society. They were deemed religiously unclean because of the work they did, and they were literally unclean. It was thought at the time that shepherds were incapable of telling the truth, therefore they could not be witnesses in court. By definition, the shepherds were nobodies. So here's the question. As Luke tells the story and incorporates all those elements, do you think that all those elements around Jesus' birth were random? Or is God trying to say something? Tell us something? I think Luke points them all out very specifically. And I think he's saying to Theophilus and then to all of us, somebodies and nobodies, hey, Jesus came into this world as a nobody among nobodies. No big name, no wealth, no political power. He was an unknown. And Luke's saying to Theophilus, just like I had to recalibrate my thinking about how the God of the universe was going to enter our world, so will you, my friend. God entered our world this way for a reason, to let the world know that God came not just for the religious elites, but for everybody and especially the nobodies. Now, right before Jesus is born, Mary makes a little side trip to go visit her cousin, a woman named Elizabeth. Elizabeth is also pregnant. And while Mary is there, and I don't know how it all unfolded, what kind of conversation they had, but at some point, Mary shared with Elizabeth, hey, this is how this happened. Let me tell you the story about how this happened, because you probably heard some rumors and some gossip. Let me tell you how it happened. And something happens in that, we don't know what it is, it doesn't tell us in the text, but something happens and some flood of light happens in Mary's mind and heart, and she just begins to sing spontaneously. And we have the words, we don't have the tune. And I don't know, Matt, does this just happen to musicians? Does music just pop out of y'all? Man, God love you. I make noise, but isn't that music? So she blurts out the song, right? And hear the words. Oh, how my soul praises the Lord, how my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for God took notice of this lowly servant girl, a nobody. And from now on, all generations will call me blessed, a somebody. For the mighty one is holy and has done great things for me. God's mighty arm has done tremendous things. The Lord has scattered the proud and the haughty. I had to look that up, haughty. It's not like haughty, it's like haughty. It just means arrogant. It just means arrogant. The Lord has scattered the proud and the arrogant ones, and has brought down the princes from their thrones and exalted the humble. God has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away with empty hands. I mean, I don't know, when music erupts out of somebody, I think there's a spirit thing going on there. And what's Mary saying? She's like, I get it. I get it. There are no nobodies. I think she's saying, I know what it's like to be a nobody, and now I'm a somebody. And not only just me, not even just about me, but what I'm carrying within me will make sure everybody knows that there's somebody. There's some truths in this I think God's trying to tell us that Luke's pointing to at the start of Jesus' life. And the first one is kind of obvious at this point. God sees nobodies as somebodies. The nobodies in life are not just people that the somebodies are supposed to pity. They're not just people that somebodies are supposed to feel sorry for and offer handouts to, so the somebodies feel good about themselves. God is declaring that the nobodies are loved and valued and have purpose and calling to change the world. And that means we got to make sure and look at our definitions. And the world defines nobodies and somebodies. Which definition are we going to look at? The definition of somebody changes because of our God, so that wealth and success and good looks and power and popularity, they don't make us a somebody as far as God is concerned. Those things aren't bad. Those things are not wrong. They just can't be how we define somebody. So when we look at Jesus and his life and what he taught and how he lived and how he interacted with people, here's a working definition. I'm taking this from Adam Hamilton. He says, a somebody is one who helps a nobody realize that they are somebody. And Jesus did it all the time. All the time. And because he did it all the time, the nobodies flocked to him. They wanted to listen to him. They wanted to be near him. They flocked to him. It was the somebodies who were suspicious of Jesus. It was the somebodies who were hostile toward him. And the early church had people from all walks of life in it, but primarily it was made up of nobodies, and they changed the world. Now, the challenge in this message for us as we start this series is to internalize God's definition of a somebody and live it out. It's to realize that if you choose to ignore or push down the nobodies, you got to know that you're working against God. And if you stand with the nobodies, you're standing with God. And the world changes. The world changes. And as I was thinking about this, I realized, that's a big part of our mission here at Woods Chapel. It's a big part of it's why we do what we do. Nobody, everybody, somebody. It's why we do what we do. I think I got mentioned earlier, Prom Boutique is coming up in the spring here, the Prom Boutique. And if you haven't heard about Prom Boutique, when I first got here, actually before I got here, I'm like, walking around and asking around, at least some, what's Woods Chapel known for? And first thing was green roof. Second thing was preschool, we care. Third thing was Prom Boutique. That's what we're known for. And this is, where we as a congregation, we collect prom dresses all year long. And, we collect about 3,000 or 4,000 prom dresses. That's a bunch of prom dresses. We store them in our missions building down the road. And we have people that go through them and make sure that they're clean and repair them if they need to be and can be repaired. And then 3 full days in March, girls from all over Kansas City come here and we treat them like royalty. They pick out their dress, and then that dress is sized for them. And we have seamstresses here that size it just right and try and get it to them that day or the next day or two. So they've got that. And then, accessories, shoes and purses and jewelry. We got a team of people that makes jewelry for them. We give away 1,200 to 1,400 dresses every year. That's pretty cool. Is it about the dress? It is not about the dress. What is it about? It's about us letting them know they're seen and they're loved and they're somebody. We do this thing called difference makers around here too. Some of you are difference makers. We partner with 3 local schools, and we train you all to go and read with kids, especially kids that don't get a lot of that at home, to read with them and provide them books. Literacy is one of our impact things. We want to make an impact on literacy in our world. And so a lot of you do this, you read. And you not only read to them, you talk about their day, you talk about their life, you ask them about their family, you get to know them. And is it about reading to them? No, it is not. It's about letting these kids know that they're seen and they're loved and they are somebody. Because some of those kids are not seen. We got this thing that started just a couple years ago called Impact Shoes. And Jenna Soche started this because she's got kids. She's a young mom with young kids, and she was seeing kids at school that had really ratty shoes. And then she not only saw that, then she recognized that shoes are a symbol in kid world. And she's like, these kids are looked at as nobodies because of their shoes. And so she said, let's do something about that. So she said, okay, we're gonna get money. We're gonna collect money. We're gonna ask these kids to hey, you can pick out your own. She works with school advocates and school counselors. We're gonna let you pick out your own shoes, your brand, and your style. And it makes these kids just pop, in some way. And in one sense, it's kind of sad that it's about shoes, but in another sense, it's not about the shoes, is it? It's about us saying, we see you. And you don't need to wear hand-me-downs. And you don't need to wear thrift store shoes. And you don't need to wear cheap shoes. We see you. You are somebody. And then our Nicaragua partnership, right? We talk about that a lot. It is awesome. It's wonderful. And Nicaragua, the second poorest country in the world, I wonder. And we've had teams go. I've been to Nicaragua 4 times, and we have teams that come back, and as we talk about it, you got to wonder if the people of Nicaragua ever think, if maybe they don't even have time to think about it because their lives are so hard, but maybe they wonder, does the world see us? Does anybody care? Do they care that we scrap and we struggle and we live and we die and our kids go hungry? Do they care? So we go and we do feeding centers and we do schools and we do microloan programs so they can create their own businesses, and we have clinics so that they can get healthy, and then our housing stuff that we do. And the houses are not gifts. They have to work. This is not a handout, a hand up. And clean water, to give them a slingshot them into the future a little bit with some success. And is it about all that? A house and clean water? You know the answer. It is not. It's about us living out what Jesus did, as Luke wrote about it, and saying, we see you, we are with you, you are with us, we're going to learn from you, and you're going to learn from us, and all of us are going to be better because of it, because you are somebody. You see it? That's why we do what we do. It's never about the dress or the shoes or the book or the house. It's about us doing what we can in our imperfect way, saying Jesus sees you and has called us to see you, and we're not going to let you be unseen. And it doesn't just happen in those big places, out there in the world, locally out there. It happens right here. In fact, it's happening right now as we gather in this room. I want to share an email that Jennifer and Andy Betts sent last week to Ellie Leonard. Ellie's our director of children's ministries. And they gave me permission to share this. I called them up and asked. They said, hey, Ellie, here's something for you, for our experience at Woods Chapel. Ben is our 6-year-old son. He started losing his ability to talk a few years ago and was diagnosed with nonverbal autism. Due to Ben's disability, he has always struggled to adapt to new environments. We as parents were fearful to take him to many new places, to avoid what others saw as meltdowns or as a disruption to other people. Ben struggled at first going to church to the point where we even avoided going. However, something changed. All of a sudden, he stopped crying and wanting to leave the classroom. Instead, he started looking into the classroom to see what was happening. Ellie and the children's ministry team were amazing and provided lots of support for Ben and continue to help him every week. Now, Ben is so excited to go to church and can't wait to see everybody. Churches, they write, they continue, churches can serve many purposes to many people, but truly, its greatest purpose is to demonstrate acceptance, inclusion, and love. Woods Chapel Children's Ministry demonstrates this every day in their dedication to show the face of Christ, and it has been transformative for our family. And in their final sentence, Ben may never be able to speak, but he communicates with us every Sunday morning the love he feels. Jennifer and Andy Betts. What is that definition of a somebody again? Here it is. A somebody is one who helps a nobody realize that they are somebody. And we're just trying to live that out, right? That's what churches do. We're just trying to live it out through Prom Boutique and through Impact Shoes and through our school partnership and difference makers in Nicaragua and children's ministry and what we're doing with Ben and his family. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the stuff that we are trying to do to live out that definition of what makes a somebody a somebody. And here's how I'd wrap this up today. Some of you here, some of you worshiping online, I mean, you may be in a place right now where you're like, I feel like a nobody. And maybe it's because you're young, or maybe it's because you're old, or maybe it's because you feel broken, maybe you've been abandoned. I don't know, there's so many reasons. But I would just tell you, don't believe the lie. Do not believe the lie. The God of the universe is trying so hard to tell you the truth. And that is, I see you and I love you, and you are not a nobody, you are a somebody. Don't believe the lie. Some of us here today are definitely somebodies. Most of us are probably in that category of somebodies. And what I think the message is for us is make sure your definition is correct. Make sure you realize that it isn't the stuff you have or the success you have or whatever else that our world says makes you a somebody. The truth is you are a somebody if and only if you help nobodies realize that they are somebodies. And that's how Luke begins his gospel. And gospel means good news. And for today, that's the good news. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.